feel like this is the most important video I've ever made because a lot of people have a different perception of me and I'm very misunderstood. So this is the video that people will see my true story.
So you're gonna introduce yourself?
Oh yeah guys, what's going on guys? My name is Ron, aka Motortube, and this video is going in depth about who I am and more about my life and my background.
So where does your story begin?
Well, I immigrated from a Middle Eastern country, and basically I'm gonna tell you guys how I was even able to get in the United States and to do it legally, and to legally have papers to get in the United States, because I came here in 2008. That was the first time I stepped foot in the United States. So it's been about 10 years, 11 years. And how it works is, to legally come here, we basically walked to the border between Mexico and the United States. There's a border. We walked to it, and basically you ask for asylum. It was literally me and my family. You ask for asylum, and which basically means that you want to come into this country legally. So basically we did that, and the first line we went into, the lady was like, she wasn't trying to have it. She didn't want us, you know, some people don't want you, they're just making it hard for you, and they didn't want us kind of, they're like, oh, yo, you came to the wrong place or whatever. I'm like, okay, we did not just travel this whole way to get here from our country, from back home, because we escaped war to get here, and you guys are gonna tell us that you can't come in here. So basically I went another line, and they're like, okay, come in. They basically booked us, fingerprinted us, put us in a holding cell and all that. They're trying to get it together of who we really are and things like that. So they're a little more understanding if it's like a family, because obviously we had good reasons to come to America. It wasn't because we were just coming here for fun or better opportunities or whatever like that. We were actually escaping war. So when we went in there, after we got booked and everything, they took us to Texas. And in Texas they have it's like, I don't know if I'd call it like a prison, because that's kind of what it was. And we basically spent about 6 to 7 months there, and during that time it's a lot of illegal things happening, and like approving your paperwork, knowing who you really are, where you come from. You're doing many interviews of who you are, where you come from, all this other, they get really in depth, because obviously the United States doesn't just let anyone in the country. So basically I had to figure it out. And when we were in there, it was like a prison, literally. We were in a cell with beds, literally like a bunk bed on the top, a toilet, literally like a metal toilet. So it was literally like a prison. You wake up at like 5 a.m., you get your breakfast, the worst food ever. Those who went to prison know what it is. The only thing is, this was like a family prison. So it wasn't like, people by themselves or just guys or just females. It was a family. So like they're literally putting kids with their parents in a cell. So that's kind of how it was. And we spent about 7 months there before we eventually got approved to come in the United States, and then you get your paperwork and all that. And that's pretty much how I got into the United States. There is also a lot into the story that I can't legally say, but I mean, it is so much, but that's pretty much the basics of how we got into the United States. Basically going through the border, asking for asylum, being in the prison, who is basically monitored by ICE. If you guys know who ICE is, they're kind of like FBI, but for like, immigrants and things like that type of thing. And 6 to 7 months in there of eating terrible food, and basically living in a prison type of thing. You can't have, you can't go outside or nothing like that. It was literally a prison. And yeah, that's pretty much how it all began.
And like, what was next? Eventually you guys got released, right?
Yeah, so we basically ended up getting released after about 7 months, and that's when they let you, go into society. So we ended up from there, they flew us down, and San Diego is the first stop. So basically I lived there for a little bit, and then from San Diego I ended up moving to Michigan. And Michigan was where we ended up like settling down and starting our life, kind of the beginning of everything.
When you got to Michigan, I mean, where'd you first move into? What was the first place?
Basically, the first place is I moved into my grandma's house, and it was a 3-bedroom house. When I say 3-bedroom, I mean literally 2 bedrooms and like an office space. So I mean, it was small where you couldn't even fit 2 mattresses, 2 small mattresses, like a single or a double mattress on the floor together. Literally, it was that small. And you're talking about 5 people. That was my family. 5 people sleeping on the floor on really thin, like, I wouldn't even call that mattress. I don't even know what I would call it. They're just literally thin foam sleeping on the floor. And that was kind of like the beginning of everything. And you know, when we first had the thought of coming here, you know, America is viewed like paradise all over the world, especially from where I come from. You know, we thought it was gonna be, you know, amazing and you know, all these opportunities, and you know, there was opportunities obviously, but I was a kid and I didn't know that I was gonna come here and sleep on the floor and kind of go through a whole struggle phase at the beginning. So the first stop is my grandma's old house that I would say I grew up in when I first came to America. So we just entered the neighborhood that I grew up in. It looks a lot better. I haven't been here in, I mean, literally 5-6 years, honestly. So the house I grew up in is literally right there. For the owner's privacy, because it's obviously not my grandma's house anymore. I don't want to put their, you know, house out there or any of that. So just out of the respect for their privacy. But this is basically the neighborhood. It wasn't that big of a neighborhood. It's not the worst neighborhood you could grow up in. It was actually a pretty good neighborhood. I mean, if you guys are from Michigan, basically this is an 8 mile, so it's not, we're not in, you know, in the trap or anything like that. I mean, this is a pretty okay neighborhood. It's not the best neighborhood. It's more on the low end of how safe neighborhoods are.
So as far as like schooling and stuff, what did you end up doing after all that?
So basically, after I got settled in my grandma's house and school, I ended up starting from 5th grade, so it was a little difficult. Alright, so right now we are at our school. There's some sort of game going on, but I remember some aspect of it. Obviously I don't remember everything. I remember this is like kind of the parking lot. I know that we used to do recess back there. I don't want to go back there because there's kids. I don't want to put the kids in there. But these are kind of the classrooms, honestly. Like, I remember that. And I'm going to show you guys around front where the buses were. So I used to walk home because literally we are... No, actually, I used to not walk home. That's crazy. Literally, my house is around the corner. And there's used to be a bus for it. Literally, my house was how many blocks, Freddie?
Well, probably what, like a block?
Couple blocks, and
yeah.
And the bus used to take us home. So I remember where the bus stood. It was literally right in front of the school. So there's the school right there, Mound Park Elementary School. 5th grade is the grade that I started going to school here in America. And I remember the buses used to stand right there. But this is kind of the school. We used to go in from here. I'm just new to this. I haven't been here like literally since I went to school. But in this video, I had to come back for it. And yeah, this was the entrance to the school right here.
So what was it like going to school?
So this was like the 1st grade. Like, since I came to America, 5th grade was the 1st grade of schooling here. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was the most difficult thing ever. So imagine you not knowing the language whatsoever. When I came to America, I didn't know how to speak English. So they put me in 5th grade, right? So when you're in 5th grade, you pretty much know how to speak English. You've pretty much got all your basics. And I've basically missed all that. I've missed kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and now they put me straight to 5th, right? So they put me straight to 5th, and I didn't know a single bit of English, like 0. Literally, I spoke no English, and I don't know. It was so different and so difficult because people like aren't used to people not knowing how to speak a single bit of English and going to school. Like, imagine if you had a classmate that spoke no English and it's difficult. You don't know how to treat them, you know? So like they treated me like an outsider. I didn't feel like I belonged there because it's like people trying to talk to you. You know, you got the teacher over here reading books. Like I don't know why they put me in the class of where the guy loved reading books. So every week we had to read a book, literally every single week, and you get like points for reading books and things like that. And imagine how difficult that was for me. I didn't know how to read, so like literally, like I didn't know how to read English. It was like, it was literally like foreign to me. I don't think I ever read an entire book because I just didn't know how to read. Like it was just hard to learn that, especially like straight. You're 5th grade, so you got to learn everything because next year you're going to middle school. So it was just so difficult. I got treated pretty bad because, again, I'm an outsider, okay? I didn't know how to speak English. I didn't know how to do anything. And, you know, I had a lot of people trying to help me. So, you know, the teachers were great with trying to help me, but it's only so much you're gonna help with somebody that doesn't know how to speak English, literally. 0 English. So the experience was a bit rough. Like I said, my favorite part was when I didn't have to speak English or any of that, which was recess time. And recess time, we used to go play dodgeball. It was the funnest, literally funnest time I've ever had, honestly. But besides that, man, I'm not gonna lie, elementary school for me, which is literally 1 grade for me because I went straight to 5th grade, and they just put me straight into 5th grade, was pretty difficult, honestly. Especially when you're a kid. You know, when you're a kid, you're emotional, everything bothers you. So just, you know, that feeling of being an outsider is the worst feeling ever, and I hope nobody ever goes through that.
Did you just end up staying with your grandma the whole time?
No, we actually ended up moving after I was done with elementary school. We ended up moving into a 1-bedroom apartment. Obviously a little better because now we kind of have our own little mini kitchen, a little living area. You know, we were still crammed up, and you know, I was very grateful. I was actually so happy that I was able to have my own living area and you know, a TV and everything, because when I was living at my grandma's, you know, my grandparents were the ones watching, you know, their TV. You couldn't really just go interrupt them and watch TV. And now that we were living in our own apartments, we had a TV and we could watch TV, where before I used to watch it on a little laptop and just go rent movies and things like that. So I was very excited and so grateful, because you know, when you come from nothing and having nothing, every little thing you're grateful for. I never asked for much and I was always grateful. So basically we moved into this apartment. So in this little apartment, 5 people live, my family basically, and it was a pretty tight, you know, bedroom. Imagine 5 people sleeping on the floor in a little bedroom like that. But you know, your back is hurting, you're pretty much on the floor, except there's a little bit of padding from actually being on the floor, but it's kind of the same feeling as being on the floor. You know, not everyone lived like this, and most people that have apartments, they're usually not 5 people crammed up in a small bedroom. But I didn't have it the worst, but it was pretty difficult to deal with as a kid. I'm not trying to say that living in an apartment is bad or it was the most difficult thing. I'm just kind of showing you guys my life, and we're going through the different phases of where I lived and things like that. So I don't want you guys thinking that I'm over here looking down on, you know, living in apartments, because anything with a roof over your head is a blessing. So during that time, here was the most difficult part, was our household income was $22,000 for 5 people. And if anybody knows anything about income, you know, to person ratio, that was basically the poverty line. When you're making $22,000 for 5 people, that's what, a couple grand per person for an entire year. So we were like right there under the poverty line. Although $22,000 for 5 people isn't that much, my parents did a great job of managing the money and maximizing the money, and you know, making sure we were good. You know, I'm forever thankful for that. I'm not gonna sit here and act like, you know, we were, you know, starving and not having a single thing to eat. They still managed to, you know, take care of us, and honestly, I don't know how they did it, but I gotta give major props. They did their thing, and you know, we obviously weren't as privileged as most kids and didn't get everything we wanted, but we did eat, and that was the most important, you know, part, is eating and having clothes on our back. We might have not had the most expensive clothing, we might have not shopped at the mall. I didn't really care for all the brand names and all that, and my family couldn't really afford that, but I didn't care because, like I said, I was very grateful to the fact that I had food and clothes on my back.
Where'd you go to middle school?
So I ended up going to a local middle school that was a couple miles away from the apartments.
How was that?
It was rough. I'm not gonna lie, it was rough. Again, no English. Obviously, my English has gotten a little better. You know, I went through whole 5th grade and tried to learn as much as I could. And you know, when you're young, it's a little easier to learn. But I wasn't that young. You know, I was still about 12, I believe, or 13. So then when I went to middle school, it was a little better. You know, I was in those classes basically that you didn't really know how to speak English, that they help you learn how to speak English. And again, in there you kind of get bullied, you kind of are looked down upon, and if I got $1 for every time they told me to go back to your own country, I wouldn't need to have a YouTube channel. I'd be rich, honestly. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've heard that so much. It's crazy how you know, immigrants or people that are different, minorities, things like that get treated. And I went through that, literally. They always told me like, yo, go back to your own country. You know, you have these kids that try to bully you, things like that. It gets pretty crazy, and when you're a kid, you're sensitive, okay? Everything hurts, everything gets to you, everything, whatever happens at school, you end up taking it home with you and remembering, thinking about it, and it was rough. I'm not gonna lie, it was rough. And what makes it all worse is that English isn't your first or second language, it's my 3rd language. So it was hard. I had to learn it, I had to adapt to the way the schooling was. And look, teachers didn't care, honestly. They didn't care that I didn't know how to speak English. They didn't care that I was only in the country for a couple years. They actually didn't care that at all. They treated me like every other student, which is fine, but I wasn't as advanced as other students because usually most of them have done schooling from kindergarten all the way to that. I started from 5th grade, so it was a bit hard.
So when did you like start settling in, getting comfortable with everyone?
I actually never got comfortable, I'm not gonna lie. In middle school, I didn't get comfortable.
Really?
I didn't get comfortable until high school. I was like in all of middle school, I never got comfortable. I was always treated different, I was always looked at different, and yeah, I never really got settled in. I never really felt like I belonged there.
You never really felt like you settled in?
No, I felt like an outsider because that's how I was treated the whole time.
How'd you even manage, man? How'd you like last throughout the whole school year?
I had to push through it. I knew I had to get through it. You know, it wasn't like anything you could skip. You know, like you hear a lot of people saying you can't skip over the struggle. So I couldn't just skip over it. I couldn't just jump into high school. So I had to just push myself every day and just go through the cycle of waking up every day, going to class. And I was the happiest person once I left school. Like, I don't know, most people are happy to leave, but I was so happy because like I felt like I finally escaped that and I could finally be normal going at home, you know?
So you had to juggle all that and worry about doing well with your grades?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I remember, I mean, I tried really, really hard to do good in school. You know, I was the type of person that I wasn't good at testing. I was one of those people, you know, I wasn't good at testing, but you know, I did my homework all the times. I tried to pick up as much extra credit. I remember my science teacher, literally, there was every bit of extra credit possible, I would do it just to get my, you know, grades up because I was just not good at testing. And especially when English isn't your first language and you've only been there for a couple years, it's hard. It's really hard, and I tried to manage. I obviously ended up graduating from middle school and barely made it, but I made it. You know, I wasn't a straight A student, I wasn't a straight B student. It was hard, and I struggled a lot through all that.
Middle school's done, what's next?
So after middle school, we ended up getting kicked out of our apartments. So once we got kicked out of our apartments, we went straight back to my grandma's house, living with them. So we stayed there for about 3 months. I'm not sure what happened because I was still a little bit young. My parents didn't really get me into what exactly goes on with the finances and all that. So from that, after 3-4 months, right when I was about to start high school, we ended up getting a house. So we got a small house, and which is the house that I'm living in. It's not the biggest house, but it was okay. It did fine. It was good for us, and we ended up finally getting a house. Then I went into high school, and that was the most I felt normal, because most of the kids had houses and, you know, they could go home and call it their own, and it's just like to have your own backyard. I just love the idea of having something that's yours, and you could be normal, and that was the most normal I felt. I had a house of my own. I went to school. School was a bit rough. I got way better at speaking English, and I was pretty good at communicating with others, but it was rough for me because a person who's not born in this country doesn't know all the basics of everything, because I didn't start until 5th grade. So I was just terrible at taking tests. I tried to do all the homework and all that again, but I went through all that. I played sports. I played basketball. I played AAU. I played for the school team. That's kind of one thing that kept me busy. But one thing happened. One thing happened in high school that just changed my life, changed my perspective on life, and just took me to another level. Like, my thinking evolved, and I owe it to this one person, and he's a motivational speaker. His name is Eric Thomas. If you guys don't know who that is, please go check him out on YouTube. He will absolutely change your life. So our principal ended up booking him, and he basically did a motivational speech and whatever, a quick hour session. And man, when he spoke to us, it just touched you and it just hit you, because he was the type of person that went through struggle and grew up poor and things like that. It correlated with what I had going on, and ever since I was like, okay, I need to find my purpose in life. So I had to just watch his videos. I started taking life more serious, and all throughout high school, I was raised very well, so I never, partied, never drank, never did anything crazy. To this day, I still don't drink, but even in high school, I never had a sip of any sort of alcohol, no smoking, no partying. I was raised really well, and also watching him, he kind of taught me kind of like how to just take care of your business and don't do anything that doesn't benefit you, because I didn't really see the benefits of partying, drinking, and doing what other kids were doing. I kind of wanted to be different, and I strived very hard to be different.
All right, high school's about to end, right? So what are your plans? You going to college?
So right now, it's the beginning of senior year. I'm 17 years old, right? So obviously my family is still, we're not rich, we're not wealthy, and we're barely making it. We're doing just fine of just living paycheck to paycheck is how it was. But I was so into cars, and I grew up watching Fast and Furious and all that. I always knew I wanted a nice car. So at 17, I was like, listen, I want a car. And I don't just want any car, because listen, I knew if I was gonna put myself in a situation where I had to pay for something and get something I really want, I'm gonna work my butt off to try to get it. So at 17, guess where I went? I went to the Dodge dealership. The newest thing out was a 2014 Charger RT, all-wheel drive, leather, 19-inch wheels. It was super awesome. I absolutely love that car just by looking at it. So I basically dragged my mom into the dealership, and I basically talked her into signing for me, and that was a bit difficult to do. So she ended up signing for me. I think the payment on that, it was a lease, so the payment on it was like $250 a month. It wasn't expensive. With insurance and everything, I think I was like $400-ish, so it wasn't that much. It was all in my mom's name, because obviously I was 17 at the time. So I ended up getting it, and then I went to go look for my first job. So I basically put myself in a situation where I had saved so much money that I could afford the car for the next 3 months, right? With payment and insurance, I could afford it with the gas. But I still had no job. But again, I was an impatient person, and I was still a kid, and I was like, I really wanted that car, and it just, I wanted it so bad that I was gonna put myself in a situation where I had to figure it out. So the way I figured out was I had to go find work. I literally applied everywhere. I didn't stop applying. I didn't stop talking to people, trying to get them to find me a job. And bam, at 17 years old, I got my first job within like 2 weeks of me getting the car. So my first job was at Tim Hortons, and I was making $7.25 an hour. I was getting straight to my bag. I was securing all type of bags. So $7.25 an hour.
Coffee bag. You were securing coffee bags.
I was securing straight up coffee bean bags. so $7.25, and hold up, I'm still going to school. So we're still in my senior year. So I was still going to school. did the 725, and the reason it was 725 is because if you're under 18, the minimum wage is a bit different. If you're under 17, they can still pay you what the minimum wage is, but cheap people like Tim Hortons, they wanted to pay the lowest amount they could pay me, and that's 725. So basically, I stayed there for a couple months, enough to pay my car, obviously, because I had to pay the car. And I was basically living for my car, honestly. I didn't care because I loved cars. And I know a lot of car people out there have put themselves in situations just for the love of the cars and to get a certain car or a mod for the car. So I was still young, I was 17, and the payment was $250. It wasn't that much. The lease was on that car was pretty cheap, and I knew I could afford it. So with that, had fun with that car, and all throughout high school, I had one of the nicest cars there, I'm not gonna lie. And you know, they don't know that I was busting my butt trying to afford that car.
Obviously, you can't stay at Tim Hortons the rest of your life. You know, you can't live paycheck to paycheck off your car. So
no,
I get a new job.
So yeah, after like a month, I just was like, okay, so why am I getting paid like more, like $1.15 less than other people just because I was a little younger? So I was like, okay, I'm out. So I ended up quitting that job, but before quitting that job, I had to secure another bag. So I ended up working at a senior retirement home, and I got paid a lot more than that. And right there, I was pretty comfortable. Again, I'm 17. I don't have that much needs. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, so you could take that off all the list. All I did was literally enjoy my car, and that's it. Just chill at home. I didn't even go out to eat or none of that, okay?
You were just working and taking pictures of your car, huh?
Working, taking pictures of my car, my 2014 Charger RT, which is, I love that car.
Wasn't it a scat pack?
No.
Oh
it was an
God.
RT. This was I was 17 at the time.
Oh my God.
So it was an RT, and it was the new thing out. It was cool.
Yeah.
We're in like 2014 now, so it was cool. So after I went to work for the senior retirement home, it was awesome. I had so much fun. It was a lot of older people, obviously, there at the senior retirement home. The place that taught me good customer service because some of those people were so picky, and I absolutely loved that job, and I enjoyed it very much.
So at this point, I mean, it was time for a new car eventually, right?
So before the new car, I ended up getting another job. I started working at Ford. I was at a Ford dealership. While I was at the Ford dealership, I was 18 at the time, and I ended up ordering a Scat Pack. I went in, made a special order. This was Scat Packs first came out. They had first came out in 2015. It was the newest thing out, and I had to get it. I knew my payment was gonna be crazy. Like, it was like really expensive. It wasn't like how it is now. So I ended up ordering it, waited a few months to get it, and right when it came in, before I took delivery of it, somebody stole the wheels.
Someone stole the wheels?
Somebody stole the wheels.
Oh my God. You got bad luck.
I know, I do. So they ended up stealing the wheels. I had to wait an extra 2 weeks for it. Once I got the car, I absolutely just loved it. And at that point, I knew I had an expensive car now. I had an expensive car that was really terrible on gas. So that was like, okay, now you gotta grind, okay? No more living paycheck to paycheck. You can't just sit here and just do that. You can't just sit here and work for someone else and make minimum wage. I was like, look, you gotta go now. You gotta go. Enough of living paycheck to paycheck. Now you got a really nice car, and you gotta afford that car. That car wasn't cheap. I was paying a lot of monthly, and insurance was expensive on that car. So after I got that car, after I ended up leaving Ford. So after leaving Ford, I ended up getting a sales position. So I did really good in sales, and I mean, you know, sales, you make a lot of money in sales if you're good at selling. I was pretty good at selling. I made a really good amount of money in sales, and then after sales, I still had the Scat Pack, and then I started investing. I had a friend from high school who was just so smart, and he brought me in to, you know, help him out with investing. We started investing, and we made a good amount of money. And you know what I did with some of the money?
Bought your Hellcat?
When I got the Hellcat. So I went and got the Hellcat. I got rid of my Scat Pack, sold it, and then got the Hellcat. And boy,
little
was I
upgrade,
in love. Huh?
Little upgrade.
Oh, what an upgrade! I never thought I'd get a Hellcat.
You're a big dog now, right?
Big dog with a Hellcat.
Financially, are you straight?
So financially, I was good. But obviously you want to always strive for better. So I was like, look, you got more gas. It's gonna cost you a lot more gas. Way higher payment. I mean, my payment was like almost $1,000. Literally, it was a high payment. Your insurance on a Hellcat is very expensive. And
you know you're gonna do a modification.
You know me too well. Tires, things like that. So I ended up starting a business actually. It was a girlfriend at the time. We ended up starting a business. That business did really well because obviously if I'm running it, it did really well. And she helped me out a lot with the whole business and we did pretty well. I'm not gonna lie, we did really well, and that's how I was able to afford my Hellcat and still live a pretty comfortable life.
Was the business like your main hustle? That was your only like income coming in?
At the time, it was. I was investing on the side, but I put my energy because you had to. It was like a business where you needed to be there and you gotta work basically. You had to hustle on your own if you wanted to eat. And I obviously had my girlfriend at the time that was helping me. It's obviously a lot better when you have somebody there to help you.
So eventually it came to an end, right?
Unfortunately, it came to an end, and
what was that? Was the breakup?
It was because emotions over money. You never want to mix emotions with money. You should never move based on emotions. And when we kind of broke off, I was still trying to continue the business, but since I only basically controlled half of it, my partner ended up just breaking the business off type of thing, and it came to and it was over. So ended up just letting go of the business. Obviously, basically we lost everything.
What was next after that?
After that, that was my a 3-year relationship that I got out of. So that was the most difficult thing ever, which is now I always preach, like, when you're young, like, forget a relationship. That's not something you want to focus on because, man, it could slow you down. It wasted 3 years of my life. So after that, now I was by myself and I had to figure it out. So what we did, boys? We started a YouTube channel, baby. Channel, trying to get famous out here. So anyways, after that breakup, I'm not gonna lie, that relationship hit me right in the chest, right in my heart. I'm not gonna lie, it broke my heart. And if any of you guys have ever been through a relationship, a long relationship like that, especially when you're young, you get so attached when you're young. You're stupid when you're young, and you don't think. And so basically after that, I was all on my own. I lost my motivation, I lost my happiness, and it was hard to, kind of adapt to being on your own, when you had somebody with you for the last 3 years. So basically I was like, okay, what you gonna do now? I was like, okay. My main motivation was the fact of how it ended, basically that my partner had gave up on me, and I hate when people give up. I don't like when people give up on me and stop believing me, so I used all of that as motivation. Another lesson in life. Use all the hurt, all the negative, all the doubters or whatever it is, use that as motivation and fuel towards your next thing you're trying to do. So that's what I ended up doing. I was like, okay, whatever. If that's how it's gonna be, I'm gonna use that as motivation. And I ended up starting my YouTube channel, and that was kind of where I was seeking for happiness, and that was kind of my escape from that of what just happened. And literally when I picked up the camera, I was just so happy. Like, I always watched YouTube and I seen YouTubers and they seemed so happy on camera, and I was like, I want to be happy like that. So I was like, okay, let's get to it. I love cars, I love videos, I love making content, and I wasn't comfortable with myself at first, but I ended up getting over it, and that was where my happiness came from. I had to replace that situation with something else, and YouTube was my escape.
But it's not easy to get a fan base out of it, so like, what's your plan?
So basically, I had nothing to lose, okay? Now I was on my own, and I had a purpose, I had a why. You need a why in life, okay? You can't just do something for money, because once you get it, then you won't have that push to get more of it, or you just can't just go try to chase something just for money. So my why is I wanted happiness, I wanted to do something I love, and eventually feed my family off. And then YouTube was like that thing that I wanted to do really bad, and I know it was hard, especially because I was not good in front of the camera whatsoever. So I did it, and and I had my Hellcat at the time, so it was a good car to kind of start. And after I started the YouTube channel and kind of went with it, whatever, I ended up talking back to that girl again. So we ended up talking and whatever, it ended again bad, another situation. So then after that, I was like, Ron, you gotta go extra hard now. You gotta go all in, like Nipsey Hussle says. You gotta go all in, just invest in yourself and go hard. So I went and bought the Mustang. I took delivery of that. I think it was in July of last year. Me and my friend went all the way to Ohio to take delivery of it. And that started another journey of something else, which is the Mustang. Brought the Mustang on the channel. And then after that, a few months later, I went and got the Ram, the Laramie Sport, which is a really awesome truck. And then at the time, I finally made the move to LA, where I really wanted to start taking the channel more serious. And I literally drove 34 hours trailering my Hellcat all the way to LA. That's how dedicated I was to my channel. So went all the way there and just started vlogging and having fun and enjoying life. And that was the first time in my life where I felt like I was so happy. I had escaped everything that was in Michigan. I escaped all the bad relationships, everything. I escaped, and it was like a new start there.
Did you like the car scene there?
I loved the car scene. There was exotics, muscle cars, awesome. The people there were awesome. And
beautiful weather. Obviously,
the weather, the
That's
palm trees, it was awesome. The girls, I'm not gonna lie, cute girls. You know, all these Instagram models, that's what they stay in LA, and it was awesome. I linked up with so many people, and people were so welcoming, and I was like, listen, you found happiness. And honestly, I stayed there for about 4 months, and then I got homesick. So when I got homesick, I started flying back, but flying isn't gonna do anything. I was like, okay, let's go back for the summer. So I ended up driving all the way, well, I went to Texas for Texas 2K to make a bunch of racing content for you guys, and then went back to Michigan to just kind of stay here during the summer. We're talking about this summer right now, because I've only been doing YouTube for a year. So this is the summer of that I came back. So once I came back, I think it was like a month into being here, my Hellcats get stolen. So once my Hellcat got stolen, that just messed me up all the way. I mean, I lost my motivation into making videos. I won't lie, I'm gonna be honest, my videos quality and just what the content was about went down. I'm not gonna lie, it just went all the way down. I wasn't making the good videos I used to make. I was mad that that happened, and I lost all my motivation. I mean, that Hellcat started the channel. It was everything I loved, and that was the car that every time I was down, I'd get in it, and it was just so fast and so crazy that it made me smile. So once that happened, I just didn't know how to deal with it, you know. Honestly, I was depressed. Literally, for the past few months, I've been so depressed, because that might have been a car for somebody, but that was what I used to make money. And it had a lot of value to me, because that was the car that started the channel. I went through so many life experiences with that car. So I had to somewhat get over it, trying to buy all these other different cars. And I tried to buy a ZR1, I tried to buy a GT500, all these cars that I was in the market to buy, but when it came down to it, those cars didn't make me happy. So I needed to go back to my roots. I needed to go back to something that made me happy, and I had to get another Hellcat. And I didn't just get any regular Hellcat. I had to get the Red Eye Hellcat, which comes with 797 horsepower. It's a crazy awesome car, and I ended up ordering it the way I wanted, kind of like how my Scat Pack was. I fully ordered everything I possibly wanted in that car, and I should be taking delivery of it in a few weeks. So I'm very excited about that. And back to your question, the thing that kind of made me get back into my groove was this video. This is the video where I think that people needed to see, and they needed to hear my story, because everybody has a different perception of me, and they think I'm some rich kid who grew up and everything was given to. And those people that know me and the local people that know me, they know that's not true, but you know, the internet doesn't know. So I do apologize for not being as personal with you guys, because people will assume if you don't tell them. So this was the video where I was just so happy to finally make this. This is a video I was gonna make at 100,000 subscribers, but I had to make it much earlier because I feel like people needed to hear my story. And I'm not saying my story is a crazy story, but it's my story. I wanted to let people know my life, how everything was, or what I had to go through, how coming from an immigrant to where I'm at right now, owning 3 cars and living my dream, doing what I love, and just like to the kids out there. I'm not no millionaire, but I can tell you guys that you could come as an immigrant with not knowing how to speak a single bit of English, with $0 in your pockets, and you could make something out of it, okay? I'm not 40 years old, I'm not 30 years old, I'm still young, and I still got a whole life ahead of me. And I think I'm at a good point in my life right now where I'm doing good for my age, and I'm just going through the cycle, trying to make good content. And I just had to make this video to just show you guys who I really am, because I'm very misunderstood and people have the wrong view of who I am and what I stand for. And the only things that I stand for is positivity, motivation, and trying to do better in life. And that's how I push in all my videos and all my social media. And that's why I'm such a motivated person, because I already went through the bad. The bad is already done. I can't ever go through worse than that. So the only thing is left to do is to go up. You stand up and you go. And this is gonna be literally the beginning of a total new journey for me, because after I get my story out, you guys are gonna know who I really am, and I don't have to ever explain myself again because it's all out there now. And now, before I let you guys go, I just want to give you guys some words of encouragement to all the young people out there, or however old you are. I just want to let you guys know that you can go through the worst and still get over that hump. It's easy for people to say this. It's easy for me to say this, but the fact that this happened to me, where I went through so much struggle, and to now, you know, having what I have, it might not be that much, but I have it, and I'm living my life, and I'm having fun at doing it. It's just not, life isn't about money. It isn't about having the most money. It's about doing what you love and being happy. And I'm at a place in my life right now where I'm so happy. And I just want you guys to know that, you know, I went through depression. I know a lot of people go through depression. Going through struggle, I've been through that. But just keep pushing, keep going, don't give up. And if you want to start a YouTube channel, please start a YouTube channel. Don't let the trolls stop you. Don't let the negative people, don't let the doubters, don't let the keyboard warriors stop you. Keep going and do what you love. If a YouTube channel is what you love doing, do it. If you want to be a doctor, do it. Whatever you want to be, do it. And I promise you, you will be happy, because at the end of the day, it's not about how much money you make, it's about your happiness, and your happiness should be put number 1. And with that being said, I will see you guys on the next upload. I love you guys. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you guys for hearing me out and hearing my story. And I hope you guys will accept me for who I am, because I just wanted to put all that out there for you guys. And that's all I got for you guys. Have an awesome day. Make sure you guys stay positive and keep chasing your dreams.